Alright, so as you may have noticed, it's been a while since I uploaded one of these. I'm going to talk about why and some slight changes the series is going to go through at the end of the video, but if you don't make it that far, first off, shame on you, but really all you need to know is that it's going to go from a monthly to a seasonal series. And with that out of the way, hello gamers, you know the drill by now. Like I said at the end of March's video, I had an abundance of free time to play games near the end of the spring, and the word count for this one is almost twice as long as that video, so let's get right into it. Now, on the surface, this seems like a pretty simple game. You play as Dave and dive in the Big Blue to get fish to sell at your restaurant. This, along with the Diner Dash style cafe management, equates to a pretty fun gameplay loop that on its own would be more than enough to make for a great game. But oh my god, did Man Rocket turn this thing up to 11. Farming, photography, platforming, boss battles, crafting, gambling, there's a fucking Tamagotchi minigame on your phone. If you can think of a game genre, Dave the Diver has probably found a way to implement it. It almost feels like the devs just wanted to see how many different genres they could get away with sneaking in this, and somehow none of it feels out of place. You kind of get to this point where after you've seen so many different mechanics, you're like, yeah, why not put a visual novel section in here? And it's all wrapped up in this beautiful package that seamlessly blends pixel art and 3D graphics. I seriously have nothing but good things to say about this. Go play Dave the Diver. When I first started Lonely Mountains Downhill, I was specifically looking for a casual racing game. The low poly art style might not be for everyone, but it was one of the main driving forces that pushed me to try this. The first few levels gave me that casual experience I was looking for, but then I noticed that doing daily runs gives you unique cosmetics and, say it with me now, I'm over cosmetics. Unfortunately, my first daily was also a free run, so that means there weren't any checkpoints to hold my hand down that mountain, and if I messed up once, I had to start over from the beginning. I spent 2 hours trying to perfect this run before I finally got it. We definitely crept into some sunken cost territory, and I almost stopped playing it completely after that, but thankfully I decided to give it another try after a good night's rest. Lonely Mountains Downhill is a trial-style racing game. There are 6 different mountains, including the DLC, that all come with unique scenery and challenges. Each trail starts initially broken up into segments, and bailing out only starts you at the beginning of your segment, not the entire level. So instead of trying to get a perfect 3-minute run like I had to do, you can focus on refining smaller parts of the level until you've got a time that you like. But there's also plenty of content here for people that want a more hardcore experience. Each level has a set of challenges that you can complete to earn new bikes and gear for your rider, along with a night mode that limits your vision and that dreaded free run for the real masochists. Something interesting that I noticed is that every set of trails is legitimately on the same mountain, not just different levels with the same background scenery. You might jump over part of a dirt road that you took in a previous run, for example. Each mountain also has hidden rest spots that promote a bit of exploration and can give you a nice moment to rest and maybe give you a nice photo opportunity. Another thing that caught my attention, and you also might have noticed it in the beginning montage, there's no music in this game. It's just the sounds of nature, and I really like this. It's relaxing, and I feel like it emphasizes the idea of it just being you, your bike, and the mountain. My only critique for this is that there needs to be a replay system added here. I would love to be able to see everyone's best run and the gear that they're rocking from the leaderboard, though I guess that would partially take away from the lonely part of this experience. Papers, Please is a game where you assume the role of an immigration inspector and examine documents to determine who you let in the country. Along the way, you'll face moral dilemmas, and not everyone is who they say they are, so you'll have to stay vigilant and make some tough calls. Now, you're probably thinking, why the hell is this guy talking about Papers, Please? That's not the game I'm looking at. Well, Death and Taxes has an identical premise, but instead of an immigration inspector, you play as Death, and you get to decide whether people live or die. The entire game takes place in an office building, and as someone with kind of a corpo job, I have to say that this game is really good at emulating never having enough desk space. You're given a kill quota and specific instructions for who you can and can't keep alive each day. Meeting all of your requirements gets you paid, and failing to do so gets you a talking to from the boss with absolutely no compensation. At the beginning of the game, I found myself mindlessly following the rules just cause I guess that's what I felt like I had to do, and I wanted money to buy cosmetics and appliances for my desk. But then I really started to think about how f***ed up it was that I was killing people just so I could look like Cthulhu. So then I tried to rebel, but at that point I was in a little too deep. This only took me about 4 hours to beat, so if you're looking for something quick, this might be a good choice, but it also seems like there's some replay value here. I started a pacifist run after I beat the game, and there was unique dialogue resulting from my choices and referencing my previous playthrough. Fez is a game that's weirdly nostalgic for me. Even though I never really got around to playing it, I remember it being one of the first Xbox Live Arcade games I bought with those old-ass Xbox Live points cards, and if you haven't felt old recently, they discontinued those things 10 years ago. Maybe my underdeveloped gamer brain couldn't handle manipulating 3D space back in high school, but I specifically remember being put off by how tough this was back in the day. In actuality, Fez was a pretty chill and casual experience though. Like I said in March's video, I tend not to gravitate towards puzzle games, but I knew I wanted something on the shorter side, and Humanity's demo didn't fully scratch that itch I had, so I figured this might get me over that hump. In addition to the puzzle elements at the forefront here, there's some decently engaging platforming mechanics too. They don't shy away from tighter jumping sections or making you switch perspectives mid-air to make otherwise impossible jumps. I feel like most puzzle platformers mainly focus on the platforming, with the puzzle aspect being secondary, but I'd say that Fez takes the opposite approach. I think the weird blend of mental and mechanical skills that this game requires is what makes it such a unique experience. I've plenty talked about how much of a sucker I am for pixel graphics, but I think this is one of those weird scenarios where the game straight up doesn't work without them. I'm sure someone could find a way to make switching perspectives with modern graphics work, but I don't think it would be as seamless. A standout for me was entering a room that had a mural on one of its walls that made up a QR code, and when I scanned it with my phone, it gave me an input code for a cube. I thought this was such a unique idea that again only works because of the pixel graphics. While I was writing the script, I got curious as to why there was never a Fez 2 with how popular this was, and it actually got announced in 2013 but canceled just a month later. There's kind of a sad happy story there if you want to look it up, but as it stands, I think Fez will continue to be a highlight of gaming in the early 2010s. After all of the little baby games I was playing, I started craving something with a little more action. I wanted a game with a very specific combat style, something along the lines of God of War Remastered. This is not that, and the combat here is much more akin to the Batman games. Not that one. Same combo and takedown system and everything. Even a lot of the unlockable moves are the same. That's not a knock on this though. There's not really an emphasis on gadgets here, and I think the setting and how visceral this is does a lot to differentiate it. But Sauron's army is definitely the most interesting mechanic here. Essentially what it consists of is working your way up the ranks to kill his war chiefs, but there are so many moving parts here, and I felt like I had a lot of player freedom when deciding how to get to them. There's quite a few mission types regarding the orc leaders, and sometimes there's even fighting between the army. So if you see two orcs going at it, you could literally just watch and see who wins. You could jump in the fight and sway the battle in one's favor, or you could take the opportunity to kill both. You have the choice to kill or spare the leaders, and leaving them alive often means fighting them later with a tougher build. I suggest that you pick a couple orcs that you like and carry them through your playthrough to see how much they evolve. Shadow of Mordor also does a really clever thing with the leaders by giving them different battle attributes, which means you can't fight them all the same way. You might run into a super beefed up commander that is immune to combos, takedowns, and stealth attacks, but afraid of fire. So instead of trying to fight him head on, you're more inclined to find a way to exploit his weakness for an instant win. And don't think you can cheese the game by going straight for the war chiefs. When I got to the second region, I immediately put a death threat on one of them and ran into the mission thinking it'd be easy pickings, but since I hadn't taken care of any of his underlings, they all showed up to gank me. Okay, I know I'm late to the party with this one, but holy shit, this game goes hard. I got my introduction to Vampire Survivors back in early 2022 when it was still in early access and Northernlion was playing the hell out of it. Initial viewing impressions were that it looked pretty boring, but this is definitely one of those games that isn't nearly as fun to watch as it is to play. I put 16.5 hours into this over the weekend that I bought it. I got home on that Friday after work really thinking I was gonna edit some audio, maybe make a YouTube short, do something productive, but then I did my daily Steam check-in and noticed that this was on sale, which it's already only $5 by the way, and before I knew it, it was 11 p.m. on Sunday night and I had to get ready for work the next day. Hi, this is me a week after writing that. I'm at 44 hours now, so yeah. It's been such a long time since a game has captivated me like this, so while I usually beat myself up a little for extended periods of gaming, I couldn't really be too mad about this one. If you somehow have never heard of this, Vampire Survivors is an auto-battler roguelite where the main objective is surviving through bullet hell style waves of enemies. Killing enemies grants you experience, and every level up will give you a random choice of weapons. These base weapons alone aren't enough to get you through a run though, and one of my favorite parts about this are the different weapon upgrades you get by combining the right ones. There are hundreds of different combinations to explore when building up your arsenal, but I will say it's pretty easy to curate a broken build that can basically guarantee you a win. Even in hard mode, an upgraded pentagram and wand is almost a sure W. This is a roguelite, so you can use the money you've made during a run to make future runs easier with persistent upgrades like more health and faster walk speeds. There are a ton of different characters that all have different stats and starting weapons, along with stages, modes, and items to unlock with the money as well. All of this culminates in this perfect example of that just one more run game that makes this so hard to put down. Again, Vampire Survivors is only $5 and I've gotten over 40 hours of playtime out of it. This is easily one of the greatest bang for your buck purchases out there and a high recommendation from me. Everyone loves Outer Wilds. Everyone. And a weird phenomenon that comes with critically acclaimed games is the innate pressure to also enjoy them. I mean, if 98% of people like something that you don't, you must be the problem, right? Not necessarily. All of that was a preamble to say that I didn't really care for Outer Wilds. I found myself playing this to play it, trying to figure out why so many people swear by it, and not playing it for fun. I didn't even beat it, which is a little sad because of how good I've heard the ending is, but what can I say? I wasn't having fun. To elaborate on why I really don't gravitate towards puzzle games, I'm very adamant about not looking up guides. Again, this is just me, but I feel like that kind of ruins the experience. And unfortunately, specifically with puzzle games, I often find myself in this limbo where I'm stuck and I don't really know what to do. Eventually, I start feeling like I'm wasting my time, but I still don't want to look up a guide and risk getting spoiled for something completely unrelated. I'll admit that is completely a me thing, and I don't fault the game for my decision to not seek assistance, but there were a handful of things in Outer Wilds that weren't on me that really soured the experience. I'm not going to turn this into a let's complain about Outer Wilds segment, but I will tell you the reason why I quit. Without spoiling, I got to a point where you have to do something on one planet and fly to another planet to actually access the thing that you did on the first planet, and I died 3 times in a row on my way to the second planet completely due to the shitty autopilot. Sometimes it literally just didn't work. I couldn't lock onto a planet and had to restart my game. Other times, specifically if you're flying to a planet that's close to the sun, your ship won't align or slow itself down enough and you'll overshoot the planet entirely and die doing your best Icarus impression. And this is how I died. 3 times in a row. After that, I decided I wasn't going to invest any more time in this. I will say that what it seems like most people really like about this is the exploration and piecing together the story bit by bit, and that definitely is a highlight of the game. Filling out your ship's logs and finally figuring out how to get somewhere that was previously inaccessible through transcripts and recordings is fun, and I'm also kind of a slut for anything related to time manipulation, but it wasn't enough to keep me invested. Outer Wilds is not for me, and that's okay. Let this be a lesson that you don't have to like something just because everyone else does. We all have different tastes and preferences. If you love this game, good for you, but personally, I didn't enjoy it. Alright gamers, it's time for a little channel update. I currently have a lot less time to make videos than when I started this series, and while I want to keep it going, I have a lot of other ideas that I can't really dedicate time to if I'm spending half the month making these. I also feel like I've started speeding through games and not fully enjoying them since I know I'm kind of on a tight schedule with these. So with all of that being said, I'm gonna move this to a seasonal series. Instead of monthly gaming recaps, there'll be games that I played in summer 2023, for example. There'll be longer videos since they'll cover multiple months, and I feel like it'll give me more time to work on out some of the other stuff I've got cooking. So the next time you guys see this will be at the end of summer, which is right around the corner. But other than that, as always, if you've liked the video and made it this far, thank you. Don't forget to leave a like and comment for the algorithm, and you can sub to the channel if you want more gaming content like this. Thanks for sticking around until the end, and I'll see you in the next one.